This gotta be the year, right? Boston Uprising fans have been saying that since season 1. I get it. It's been rough for the boys in Boston the past few years, but this year, the Uprising are looking like a quality team that could make a few tournament finals, or maybe even a playoff run. In season 1, the Boston Uprising were a genuine force, with a solid 26-14 record, and shooters like Striker, Note, and Avast. They finished second in the Atlantic Division and showed signs of sustained success, like their rivals, the New York Excelsior. Well shit, that whole sustained success thing never happened. Season 2, they came back with an interesting roster. They did make it to Stage 1 playoffs, only to get a train run on them by Vancouver. Then they traded Note for RCK in this baffling move in hindsight. Season 3 ended up even worse for the Uprising, who put up a league worst 2-19 record and became the joke of the entire league. So what went wrong last season exactly? Last year's team, like the past couple of seasons, had a lot of instability on their team and in management. The roster was underpowered and went through a bunch of changes mid-season. I doubt you even remember that Munchkin was on this team for a hot sec. They did have two shining stars, Myeonbong and Jerry. I mean, they basically were this entire team. Jerry was putting up 8.3 final blows per 10 minutes. That's 2.5 final blows more than his DPS running partner Color Hex. There aren't many teams in the league with this kind of disparity between the final blows leader and the rest of his team. If you look at teamfight win rate stats, it's clear the team went as Jerry went. He was this team's threat, and outside of that, not many others contributed. Myeonbong looked like he could become a top flex support in a league filled with monster players at that position. On a dreadful team, Myeonbong was still able to impress fans with his excellent play, particularly on Ana. He wasn't filling up the elimination sheet or anything, but he was the backbone of this team in the support position. Out of the Uprising players that played at least 500 minutes on the team, Myeonbong only died 4.8 times per 10 minutes. Looking at teamfight data, it shows he was a very stable support on a roster that typically crumbled. Meaningful changes needed to be made. Jerry left the team to head over to Washington for his congressional run. The Uprising kept Myeonbong, Punk, and veterans Color Hex and Fusions. Outside of that, every player on the Uprising is brand new. They actually made some strong off-season acquisitions. The roster as it stands now consists of Soon, IM37, Valentine, Color Hex, Fusions, Stand 1, Punk, Myeonbong, and Faith. Those are some great pickups. Soon is a proven talent in the league. Stand 1 had a solid season last year in Shanghai, but he was benched in favor of Fearless, who had this S-tier season. Valentine, Faith, and IM37 had a solid year in Contenders, playing for WGS Phoenix over in Korean Contenders. These additions, alongside having a true head coach in Lori for the first time in years, the Uprising finally have some stability. This is, without a doubt, the most talented roster Boston has had since Season 1, but can it translate to wins? I'm not entirely sure about that, but I'm confident that they won't be dog shit like they were last year. The team recently played at the Steel Series Invitational, defeating the Paris Eternal and then getting trounced by the Los Angeles Gladiators. There's a couple things we can learn from their preseason performance and looking at their roster as a whole. The biggest upgrade is his tank line. Fusions was miserable last season. Not that he's like a trash player or anything, but I believe the environment last year didn't really facilitate Fusions ever having a solid year, no matter how good he was. It's unlikely that Fusions will see any playing time this year, but you can't discount having a player that tries super hard in practice, is by all accounts a great teammate, and a vet who's already been on this team for a couple years. Those qualities are important for any young team learning to win. Stan 1 and Punk is a dope take duo. Punk showed a lot of promise last year, and should be next up as a player to take a leap. He's a solid off-tank that doesn't die a lot, and picks up his fair share of kills. Stand 1 is the best main tank this team has had since Gamzu. Last season for the Dragons, he was statistically in line with tanks like Gushue, Benbest, and even Gamzu. He was a solid tank last year that will bring stability to that position, which, hey, should allow Punk to shine as an off-tank as well. The supports are dope. Myeonbong, he could make a run at Roll Star this year if things go right for the Uprising. He's supremely talented, and I'm looking forward to watching him grow as a player this year. He's not bloodthirsty and eye-popping like somebody, Jonak or Violet, but he gets the most out of the heroes he plays, and his Ana is mad nice. Faith looked good. He was good for WGS Phoenix and performed well during Steel Series. Yet again, he's probably the best main support this team has had since Season 1 with Kellex. Shit, he might be the best this team has just ever had straight up. The DPS line is questionable. I love all the pieces, but this lineup feels very limited. Not gonna lie, I don't know much about Valentine, so if you know a lot about him, please throw it in the comments. I can clearly see his Echo and Genji are top of the line. The amount of value he was getting from Genji at Steel Series proves he's really strong in the hero, and if Genji is ever meta, the league is screwed. His Doomfist is apparently solid, but outside of that, he seems to have a limited hero pool. He will need to show up big on something like Mei for this team to click. Sometimes, Genji or Echo won't always work. I do think Valentine has great potential, and his Genji and Echo can be an excellent change of pace during a series, so I hope they don't go away from that and lock him on Mei Jail or just straight up bench him. Soon is best in class on Tracer, and is a really good Widowmaker. Having a player that's best in class at a hero like Soon is on Tracer will take you pretty far. We saw last year with the Paris Eternal that Soon is still very good. Soon was probably the best DPS player on the Paris Eternal last year, and should see the majority of the playtime in this DPS core. IM37 is good at Ashe and McCree, but is average or below average on everything else. The team will need him to either diversify or have others step up to fill those gaps. This isn't discounting his skills though. There were times where IM37 absolutely stepped up at Steel Series, and he's the type of DPS player that is going to make plays for you when you need it. Color Hex might make or break this team if they want to be championship contenders. Color Hex is the most traditional flex DPS on the team. He's got some solid projectiles, he got some solid hit scan. I think Color Hex is generally in the same spot as Fusions as really good veteran presences that are helping on the back end, but if he can become a positive asset, it might fill some of the other gaps in this DPS line. So what do I project this team as? They have a really hard schedule to open up the season. These boys got the Gladiators, Fuel, and Justice to open the season. Those 3 games will tell us a lot. If they can go 1-2 or even 2-1 in that little stretch, I'm confident Boston Uprising can be a top 10 squad. Look for Boston to be competitive against the top teams. This year is clearly an all-in attempt at getting into the playoffs. You need to be competitive against the best teams and shit on the bad teams. That is how Paris ended up finishing top 5 in NA. That is how Florida finished top 5 in NA. And that is how even the Los Angeles Valiant finished high in NA. This season is going to be tough. NA is stacked. But they need to go at least 500 and make the trip to Hawaii at least once. This team is clearly trying to turn the ship around. You want to build winning habits, you gotta actually do some winning eventually. I expect Boston to win 6 games. They're gonna get there by taking the upset against the Justice early this year, then splitting the season series with Florida, Paris, and catching wins against the Titans and Outlaws. The Boston Uprising are at least going to be fun to watch this year. They're not going to be a team that you skip over, that you tab out when they come on. They have a lot of fun players, they're going to play an exciting style, and I think that they have the potential to make 1 or 2 nice little tournament runs this year, and then get destroyed in the playoffs by the number 1 seed. I'm looking forward to the Boston Uprising, and if you are also looking forward to them, let me know. If you're a Boston fan, do you have hope, or have you just completely given up on everything? Let me know in the comments. Make sure to like, subscribe, and check out the Scrapyard Overwatch League podcast. Every Thursday, new episodes where we give a little bit more in-depth and longer form discussion on the Overwatch League. We'll also have 3 team preview videos every week till the season starts. So hopefully you subscribe to stay updated on those. Thank you for entering the Scrapyard.